fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's got everything outside of both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taking Anderson! Anderson's up top!
Oh my god! Oh. Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get rolled!
Sec's very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly.
Oh, there we go!
Oh no! That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my god!
God, what?
It's not since 1967 since we've been to these fabled streets and had a run, and even then, it was the Bugatti layout circuit which was created for these style of vehicles. It's not been then since we've seen the world of endurance start to mesh and meld with the world of Formula vehicles, but when it comes to the iRacing Grand Prix Series, anything is possible, and in 2020, it is happening right now. We are at the fabled Circuit de la Sarthe. It's Le Mans here on Sim Speed TV for this, your 12th round of the championship, or even more, as we look to try and find some amazing battling action going out here on track here today. 17 vehicles will be looking to try and take to the fabled French roads. The countryside awaits everybody as they go on into battle, qualifying currently underway. My name's Jake Sperry, joined alongside by Cameron Dance here. Jay Kennedy is on the cameras here for this one, as everybody is just moving over to qualifying right now. 8 minutes, 2 laps available to them, and it's going to be a very, very tall order to get 2 laps in. I reckon they're only going to be able to get 1 here today. And Cam, this is truly unique as a race spectacle. Everybody's going to be searching for drivers' times. The good news for them today is that from where they start, they effectively get a jump to get going, so they make sure they get 2 laps in.
Yo, it's only just shy of under 3 minutes in terms of lap times for qualifying, so this is probably going to be one of the very few times where people are actually going to get 2 laps in here at Le Mans in qualifying, which is going to be really, really interesting, and especially if some people actually do possibly make a mistake as well even then. So it's really going to be quite interesting to see who actually does 2 laps and who only does 1, and who's going to come out on pole. Although that said, it's probably a given as to who's going to be on pole, but who knows, because it's a track that no one's been to before, so it's completely new for everyone.
Here's the zoom in on the Google Earth Sky camera as we dive down in towards the Circuit de la Sarthe here and the Le Mans track, and you can see it funneling past the good old football and rugby stadium there on the right-hand side. But here it is, 13.6 kilometers in all of its glory. Down there at the Mulsanne section, you can see a nice little golf course down there. So if anyone's going 4 left, it's going to be a little bit interesting for drivers here today. But this is truly a track which could mean all the difference. Yes, it's 355 meters on the run up towards turn number 1. What's also going to be key is that it's a very, very quick turn 1 as well. So more rather, drivers are going to be looking at towards turn number 2. But there is a reason why the TQ Engineering car of Ben Fuller is on screen right now. He has been blistering in the qualifyings and the races that we've had earlier in the week. We've been hearing and seeing times of upwards of 3 seconds clear of the rest of the field. He has been absolutely storming. He lapped the pack 1 week ago at Sonoma Raceway. And Cam, well, who's there to challenge him here today? The answers are, well, there's a Marco Sanfilippo knocking about that will definitely want something. Danilo's also back in looking for the hunt as well. But there is no sign of Mark Usher, so this could be the moment that the championship is all secured for the driver with the number 2 on the vehicle.
Yes, certainly. It's going to be quite interesting to see what happens and what's going to happen here, and whether anyone's going to be able to put up a fight with Ben Fuller. He has the 3rd quickest time on the world record list, so he's not actually the quickest qualifier this time out, but who knows what's going to happen today.
Well, we'll certainly see if everything is all nicely met up together, making his way to the Porsche curves here in these Williams Toyota FW31s, and they're going to be frighteningly fast here at 170 kilometers an hour, trying to go through, just shifting down into 5th gear before trying to put the power back on again and up into 6th once more, and now starting to push towards the final chicanes out on track 2, left, right, the end of this section. This is looking really quick from Ben Fuller, nice and neat as it has been all lap long, and the burst to the line says that this is a 3:02.2 as a benchmark time. One more to go after this, but what a lap to piece together.
Yeah, absolutely. That's an incredible lap time on its own. When you think about it, and LMP1s are doing just shy of 3-minute 10s. That's nuts to think about. They're nearly under 3 minutes in general. So, yeah, that's a very, very good lap for Ben Fuller, and I wouldn't be surprised if he actually does go quicker. I'm not quite sure if that's quicker than his current time on the world record stand, but nevertheless, still a very, very good lap.
And that's the difference there. Kent Nielsen goes 5th and is 4 seconds adrift here in qualifying. It's Fuller from MACLEOD, Ahoya, Danilo, Sanfilippo, and then Kent Nielsen at the moment. How these times look right now, and you can see on screen it's 2.6 seconds to the nearest competitor in Clayton McLeod, who had a massive bust up at the end of Sonoma. A lot of contact between them. Marco Sanfilippo halves the gap down though to 1.3 seconds as there's Dylan Freckleton over the line in 10th position. He's 5.8 seconds off of the pace here at this stage. 17 drivers though here today, Cam. So what that's going to mean is that this is going to be a lot easier for these drivers compared to, say, if they were one split and there were 35 drivers or so running around this circuit. Less numbers means that there is more emphasis on good results, and these drivers, my goodness, they need good results today.
Yes, certainly. It's going to help the model a lot, especially in the points department, but also from a standpoint of having to deal with traffic as well. They're not going to be jumping over each other and all that sort of stuff at the end of the race, which is going to be really good. We're going to have a proper fight with a number of these drivers, but nevertheless, it's still a very, very long race, and draft's going to be the biggest talking point here today because of how long the straights are and everything. We usually see this sort of draft packs that you'd normally find at somewhere like Daytona and that with this track, and it doesn't matter any car, it's going to happen. But yeah, it's really going to make things quite fascinating, and you'll probably find that if anybody doesn't make a mistake, well, if anybody makes a mistake, they're going to end up falling off that pack. So it's really going to be a matter of who's going to be able to stay on the tail of everybody and hold that draft.
Exactly. Here are the championship standings, though, on screen. 11 rounds, 2 drop rounds applied. Ben Fuller is clear by 64 points at the top over Mark Usher. Danilo Sanfilippo third, but third behind by 102 here today. It's practically out of reach for anyone except Mark Usher, who definitely needs results. And, of course, you've got Marco Sanfilippo, who has not done all the races so far this season, down there 1,245, might be targeting this round, and of course Snetterton to round off the season, of course, in this bumper 13 weeks that we have. Normally an iRacing season is 12 weeks long, but we're in a leap week, so to speak, that we'll be having on, and so Le Mans was added to the calendar at the latest possible place. Ben Fuller's gone even quicker, though, potentially on a 3:01.103. That is remarkable. He has found another 1.2 seconds in the bank, and Alex Ahoya has just jumped up into second place. Here comes MACLEOD looking for time, looking to improve. A 3:03.2 puts him second as ADRIAN Moreno jumped up there into fourth place ever so briefly. So MACLEOD now gets just ahead of Alex Ahoya, 13 kilometers around here, Cam, and they're still only separated by 200ths.
Yeah, it's so close between those two behind Ben Fuller, and Fuller's actually just eclipsed the world record with that lap as well, to put into perspective how quick it is. So amazing job by Fuller, but Sanfilippo comes across the line and goes with a 3-minute 2.6, so still a solid margin between himself and Ben Fuller, but puts himself up into P2 at least.
1.5 seconds back then here as Adam Webb's desperately going to try and get a final lap in. There's 23 seconds on the clock. Once that clock expires, they cannot go any further. He's the only driver without a lap on the board, be that representative or otherwise, heading through the final chicanes. Needs to be aggressive in the Grip TV car, trying to find every possible thing going over the line. It's a short run here to the start-finish line, and a 3:03.7 is good enough for 5th place, and he'll be incredibly happy with that, will Adam Webb. So here at this fantastic circuit, we are going to get for you how the grid will stack up for everyone here today. and it is plain and sailing. Ben Fuller has broken the qualifying world record with a 3:01.1. He's 1.5 seconds clear of Marco Sanfilippo in second, with Clayton McLeod third and Alex Ahoya in fourth position. Following that is Adam Webb in the Grip TV car and Adrian Moreno there in sixth position. Danilo Sanfilippo, dreadful in qualifying, needs more in the race. He starts 7th place with John Pat Kelly in 8th. Tamas Shane is going from 9th position, and Edu Villa is 5 seconds off the pace in 10th position.
Then you have Kent Nielsen lining up just behind him with Ben Guiet. John Owens going to be in 13th, Jan Shutinsky 14th, David Cudmore rounding out the top 15, and then Freckleton and Fernandez rounding out the 17-car field.
Yes, this field has been split into two. There's 2 splits of 17, and there were drivers that maybe could have been up here who could have been challenging, as there goes the tricolore as they fly the French colours here right now. It's a standing start here today at Le Mans, as it traditionally isn't, but will be here today for the racing action. And there you can see a beautiful, beautiful golden bird there on the back of that wonderful machine that is being run by the Sanfilippo brothers, who will be looking to try and find the biggest result possible. There's going to have to be a lot of soul searching to go on in terms of this championship, looking towards next season. They've been told they've got another season of the Williams FW31. There's the track temperatures as well. It's 26 degrees on track, winds blustering in at 28 kilometers an hour, and this one is going 15 laps long here today, as they will race for 203 kilometers, or just over 125 miles worth of action. 1 pit stop is required here today. Let's get ourselves then ready, because we are underway here at Le Mans. Danilo Sanfilippo has got an absolute stormer from the 4th row as they charge on through the rights towards the first chicane. McLeod challenging there. Marco Sanfilippo for 2nd place, but they hit the brakes and try and go through. Oh, John Pat Kelly nearly took the back out of someone there, going through into the next section. Now Shane there with Adam Webb will be going side by side as they now head through the left, then the right, as they avoid the Bugatti section, and now they head towards Tetra Rouge for the very first time here on what is going to be a very iconic race.
Yeah, certainly. There was a very, very close moment between John Pat Kelly and Danilo Sanfilippo, but nevertheless they managed to come away with it very, very nicely, well, very cleanly at least. But that's a incredible lead that Ben Fuller's already got. It's actually a nice gap that he's got, so he's going to be able to try and pull away from Marco Sanfilippo now, but they're still battling just behind, all using the toe as best they possibly can.
Well, I do have to apologise. That was Kent Nielsen and Adrian Moreno that we were looking at right now. There is Alex Ahoya, currently in 4th position right now, trying to chase down, and positions changing up and down the order right now with the draft, especially in the mid to late pack, as Alex Ahoya here is desperately trying to stay within 1 second in the Kronos sim racing car. He's 8/10 back of Clayton McLeod here as they head in towards the 2nd of the chicane. And look at this, Marco Sanfilippo, 2/10 on every part of this straight. He is able to close down in, and this might be the only way you're going to be able to close down Ben Fuller, who seemingly is impervious through the corners. If you can stay within 1 second around here on the straight, we might have a race.
Yeah, certainly. That's going to be one of the things, actually, it's going to be quite fascinating around this track, is the difference in downforce levels that some of these drivers are going to be running, and then also some of the tricks that they might do just to try and help get a little bit extra straight line speed in the terms of rake and all that sort of mechanical stuff, as there's for stuff further going on further back, and it's all a big scrap.
Someone's gone off. It's Adrian Moreno, who's looked like he's had a moment there. 3 wide on the run up towards the fantastic Indianapolis corner. This is David Cudmore here going at it with, I believe that's Ben Guiet, who might be going on through, and it is. And look at this from Adrian, trying to find a way through as well. The right into the left, and on the brakes they go. It's banked camber through that section, so you are able to make the outside work. And here's one of the most deceptively difficult corners as Adam Webb, I believe, tries to dive down the inside. He doesn't quite get it done. Then at Arnage, as they head to the Porsche curves and look to try and get themselves moving forward. But that was all a big hullabaloo there down at the Mulsanne hairpin as we catch it on the Motum Simulation replay.
Yes, certainly. It was all going off down the Mulsanne straight into Mulsanne corner, and really just lost it on the way in.
And it's a very awkward place to turn that around and get going again. Everyone just scattering around. He's hearing car turn around in the relative, so they're able to get going with their spotters and keep on going. Danilo Sanfilippo as well, dropping a couple of positions. I wouldn't have been surprised to see if that was a slowdown penalty that cost Danilo Sanfilippo through there. A lap score complete then at Le Mans. We've got ourselves about 14 laps more worth of racing action to go, and pit stop window here, Cam, is going to be relatively small, I think is the right way to say it. We'd probably say anywhere between lap 5 and 10 might be the ideal time to come in and make a stop, but they could go as far as lap 12.
Yes, certainly, and one of those things you're going to try and use to your advantage in the pit stop phase is also trying to work in with someone to use their draft to pull you along, because you're not really going to want to put yourself on clean air here unless you know you've got decent straight line speed, as Freckleton is around with no front wing.
Yeah, that's Dylan Freckleton then in trouble going through. That's just after the first chicane there. So up the rise then towards turn numbers 2 and 3. And we're going to stay on replay here because of incidents that have happened. So Freckleton just trying to grab power on the exit. He's there on the AstroTurf there, that little rumble strip on the outside, and runs into troubles. Now here's Danilo Sanfilippo, John Pat Kelly here. We were having a little look at, but what happens here is we see a little bit of dramas going on screen out there on circuit. It looks like it's going to be Kent Nielsen who runs into troubles and slows it right down there, and it looks like that might be technical potentially.
Possibly, although based on the location where he was slowing down, it might have been a slowdown on the way out of Tete Rouge. Yeah, it looks like it might have been based on how wide he ran. So Strutinsky's gone off as well.
And someone's not happy over the radio with that, and I expect it to be Jan. So let's try and catch a little look at that then, see what's happened to Jan Strutinsky then. That's the second of the Mulsanne chicanes. It's the Michelin chicane there. Of course, they're having a pretty good effort, the Michelin company, to try and make sure that they get tyres correct in sim races that go through. So here's the little look down the inside, and no, that's just to lose all on his own.
I can't say I've ever seen him before, to be honest. It's usually, if you go around the outside, you're usually going to be doing it pretty easily, but nope, that's clearly going around circles instead.
And there's Ben Goyette just backing out of it there. That was brave from Adrian Moreno. No. Down the inside, bang! Contact, Nielsen goes around. Goyette takes a tap as well, but gets away with it there. So Kent Nielsen at Indy runs into troubles there, running there in through that fantastic left-hand bend. So there goes a spin. We just caught the instant there from behind. Let's get a little look at this one from Kent Nielsen's perspective, looking backwards here. You can see how strong the draft is. Nielsen may have something wrong with the car with the way that he's slow, but you can see here Owens closing in, and well, you have to say that's a little bit of the net code that we have to talk about, Cam.
Yeah, it was a little bit of a ambitious move by Owens on its own, but yeah, just a little bit of net code, unfortunately, between them, and Owens has got front wing damage as well by the looks of it, so he's going to have to bring it down onto the lane, which he does to get that thing fixed.
He certainly does, and well, it's very, very clear how this one is going now. Kent Nielsen was very, very unhappy as he was trying to push on forward. He's down in the pits, as is Tamashe now, who came in at the end of lap 1 and hasn't come back out since then in this race. So a lot of drivers running themselves into troubles, but it is Ben Fuller in control at the front of the field. This is 4th and 5th. Alex Ahoya dropping back behind John Pat Kelly here in terms of this battle going on. And well, Ahoya had a very good qualifying, was able to get the lap together, but I wonder if the race pace isn't quite there at the moment, trying to close down in the draft. But they have to be careful here, because if they start fighting a little bit too much, there is a Danilo Sanfilippo just behind. Ahoya going to look for his markers and through the first chicane, which does not have a name here in terms of iRacing, because the Forza chicane, well, Forza don't like us here. But at the moment, Alex Ahoya trying to chase down for 4th.
Yeah, he did actually make a little bit of a mistake getting on the car a little bit too early and had a little bit of a half spin on the exit of the full chicane on that last lap, so that's where the move happened. But yeah, he's tucked right up behind John Pat Kelly now, right within range to easily make a move. But like I said, they've just got to be a little bit careful here that they don't have Sanfilippo and then also Eddie Villa not too far behind catch up, end up causing them to battle even more.
And that's the key here. The moment you start battling at Le Mans, it becomes a case of trying to dig your heels in and stop yourself being overtaken. It's so easy to lose time. Look at this on the brakes. There's that little marker cone, and that's how easy you can gain time under braking. And then when you get the power down, you're almost punching a hole through the air. This has got one of the highest average speeds of any circuit in the world, and this is why, because you spend pretty much 80% of the time at full throttle. Ahoya's going to move to the left-hand side of the circuit. First kink comes up, second kink will be on the horizon. He's got himself the nose, and he's got himself the position as John-Pat Kelly backs out of it.
Yeah, very, very nice move by Ahoya. And just to give you an idea of speed, 344 kilometers an hour on the way into Indy, which is absolutely mind-blowing to think about.
My eyes are watering just thinking about how quick that is, and that's no understatement at this point. So, Alex Ahoya up into 4th position. John-Pat Kelly back down then into 5th place, and the field starting to just spread out a little bit. This is your race leader, Ben Fuller, here at the end of the 3rd lap of this event. He is 3.8 seconds clear of Marco Sanfilippo. There's a nice little karting track there that they've just gone by, but now they start to head through the final couple of corners and trying to make the power down and get themselves moving on forward once more right now. And there's Ben Fuller's time of 3:03.3 going on forward, and that's Marco Sanfilippo backwards.
Yeah, that's not too ideal. Not quite sure what's happening, whether he's done that on his own. He's actually...
Most likely.
Yeah, he's just pretty much coming to the corner, and he's actually lost it over the curve.
Wow, this is interesting here. So, goes through. Oh, it's an anti-cut curve for a reason there, Cam. And he got a boatload of air.
That's definitely not too ideal, but that's very, very odd to see that sort of reaction from cutting those curves. It's not actually that big, but nevertheless, it is an anti-cut curve, and it's, well, clearly done its job.
I'll tell you what that reminds me of. That reminds me of 2011 and Vitaly Petrov at Sepang, where the entire steering column just sheared.
Yeah, that was actually a very, very similar moment in terms of airtime. So, yeah, not too ideal for Sanfilippo, and I'm probably going to say he's going to be in the pits there for a while with how much damage he's possibly got. But got Shana on the lane as well as Adam Webb. So a couple of people starting to come onto the lane and get some pit stops done.
It's lap 4 of 15, so if anyone does have damage, the early pit stop is the big idea to get themselves out and going again. And fresh air around this place might just be the best thing for quite a few drivers here today. That extends Ben Fuller's lead over Clayton McLeod now to 10.3 seconds here at the front, as we focus on 3rd and 4th now here on the road. Alex Ahoya and John-Pat Kelly. And that's actually something really crucial to keep in mind here about this race today, Cam, is that it's sometimes the corners that you take for granted in an LMP vehicle that will bite you in a Formula car.
Yeah, 100%. It's one of those things is that it looks simple on paper, but it can be completely different in terms of vehicle. I mean, we just saw Sanfilippo lose it over that anti-cut curve, which you could easily be as aggressive as you wanted in something like a GT or a prototype or something. But in these things, which are so low to the ground, it's not so easy, and you just have to be a little bit more careful in terms of how much you take.
Exactly, and that's going to be so crucial for these drivers to keep in mind. They're going to be driving pretty much well within the limits when it comes to this vehicle, this track here today. On the brakes into the Arnage corner and trying to put the power down on the exit, use all of the power available, and John-Pat Kelly is chasing here, trying to stay within range with Alex Ahoya, a podium on the horizon, and Danilo Sanfilippo only 2.2 seconds back, so any small mistake will be capitalised on. Talking about other drivers, though, who've had good runs today, we haven't seen too much of Edu Villa this season, but up there in 6th position, he's having a fantastic run today.
Yeah, and he's not too far off the back of Sanfilippo as well, so he's not doing too bad for himself. A little bit slower last time by, but still doing exactly what he needs to at this point, just putting in some nice, clean and consistent laps.
Ding dong, fastest lap, Ben Fuller, 3:02.4, and that is a wonderful, wonderful lap to get things together. So now moving through, all these drivers will know that they'll be going faster and faster with less fuel in the tanks, and when it comes to that pit stop strategy, it's not the tyres that are the deciding factor, it's the fuel levels that really do make the changes here in this one. There is Marco Sanfilippo back out and away again. He's now the last runner on the leading lap here. He's 2 minutes 25 seconds back. The good news about the incident that he had, any damages that he did have to repair, he's done well, and he's just about managed to save a half slide there, going on through the second of the chicanes. And actually that brings me back to that Jan Stratinsky incident, and it's something that can so very easily happen in vehicles that are so low to the ground here, Cam, when you ride around here. And it's something that I experienced in the TCR car, in the Aussie car series, and that is the fact that when you are driving around in these sorts of vehicles, it's very easy to compression lock the back of the car and have it just bounce through a corner.
Yeah, certainly, and especially with that, the fact that they're running not too much downforce as well, so it puts even more emphasis on actually using that mechanical grip as best as you possibly can. And obviously with it being such a tall gear stack as well for this track, it's really gonna make getting into first gear very, very difficult. And you're gonna have to really slow the car down on the brakes rather than using gears like you would. And it, like you said, it's very, very easy to compression lock that rear.
Exactly, and what's also worth keeping in mind here, Cam, is that there is no doubt about it for pretty much every driver. They should be running that low downforce setup. So what's that's going to mean? It's going to mean that they've got no grip through the corners. And that's also on the fact that when you're running flat out, say, for example, like Shanghai's long straight, you're effectively doing 3 of those in a row. No, I'd scratch that, 4 of those in a row, and you're expected to have a car that brakes properly. Yeah,
it's one of those really, really strange things about these sort of tracks is you're effectively taking the wings off completely nearly and just running on a car that's relying entirely on what the tires are going to be able to give you and what you've done to the mechanical side of it. So it really makes it a little bit more trickier. You've obviously still got some minor aero grip, but it's not as much as you're normally going to be used to, so your braking distances are going to be longer. Your ability to get on the throttle is going to be a lot harder, and all that sort of stuff that just compiles, and it makes it that much more difficult to actually be quick around these sort of tracks.
Exactly. So we'll see how these drivers push on. This is John Pat Kelly we've got on screen in the TQ Engineering car. How they'd love to have 2 cars on the podium here, with Alex Ahoya currently being the gatekeeper in 3rd position right now and trying everything to go through. Safer barriers on the outside there of that Porsche curve, but I'm not surprised. The amount of G-force that you pull through this section of track, especially in these styles of vehicles, are mind-boggling.
Yes, certainly. And it would actually be interesting to find out what sort of G-force did you be pulling around some of these corners. I imagine it'd be a decent amount, over 3 Gs at least, but yeah, it would be quite fascinating to know. I mean, you wouldn't expect quite the amount that you'd find through something at Turkey, but nevertheless, it's still going to be reasonably high, especially through the likes of the Porsche curves or through the Forest S's or something like that.
Exactly, so we'll see how that one all plays out in the long and short as these drivers are going on towards lap 6 here out of 15, so they'll have themselves 9 laps to go when they cross the start-finish line. We are getting towards the halfway stage in this race, and what is key about this one, it has been a runaway as expected from Ben Fuller. This is Danilo Sanfilippo though in 5th place, and what's key is that gap has gone down by half a second over the last 3/4 of a lap. So Danilo Sanfilippo is really trying to motor right now, has started to find a rhythm, and after a 7th place in qualifying, which is very unlike Danilo, and after a few weeks away, it might be the time to start really going out there on the offensive. The Italian is trying to chase down an American and a Spaniard.
Yeah, certainly he's on the charge for sure, but he's still got a little bit of work to do. He's actually slightly quicker that last time by compared to the 2 ahead of him, but nevertheless, he'll be pushing on as hard as he possibly can. Just needs to sort of not make as many mistakes as he is, especially through the Michelin chicane, and just try and get his head down and push on.
Marco Sanfilippo has retired the car. He is out of the event in 15th position, so he is out. Danilo is the sole survivor then from that team, and they will be looking to try and push in what I would say is some beautiful Palermo-style colours out on track. And I wonder if the Eagle is very, very similar to the Palermo football team, so that would be Sicilian by nature. So pushing on forward though. This is also something that hasn't really been talked about here today, and that is the ability to save fuel. This is a very long track. One lap around here is worth 5, you could say, around anywhere else. And if you're stuck right behind, like John Pat Kelly is, the wise man's decision is to stay behind, save the fuel, because you know you can gain an advantage by going 1 lap longer.
Yeah, certainly. Going that extra lap longer really does pay dividends in the end. It's around this sort of place, and it's probably not quite as easy to save fuel in these things around here as it is in something like a GT car, where your braking distances are quite long anyway. But it's going to be a lot easier than you normally would, where you're constantly having to brake as late as you can, get on the throttle as early as you can. You can just afford to slightly lift off slightly early and then roll into the corner a little bit more, rather than having to just constantly be on the gas or on the brake.
The dreaded lift and coast, and that is not looking like a Formula 1 style vehicle at all. You were talking about, oh, we're just going to take the wings off of it. Well, Dylan Freckleton's just taken it to the next degree.
Yeah, he certainly has, and it looks a little bit more like a Formula Ford than a Formula 1 car, but there's a front wing missing as well, so it's not quite as aerodynamic on the front.
Wow. Just wow, as Alex Ahoya still holding on to that third position right now as they take the rise. They'll go under the Dunlop Bridge here as they start the first chicane and now look to put the power down. And of course, the virtual fans in full attendance here for this one, as they always are. They have a fantastic job watching brilliant sim racing every time that we go and race anywhere in the world. But Ahoya here through Tetra Rouge. They can push a little bit wide, but not too far. Of course, that corner is so notorious for being pushed wide, so they pass the Arena and move on forward now to try and push on towards the first of the 2 chicanes here on the Mulsanne Straight. And what is key to notice here is that Danilo Sanfilippo is running on the dirty side of the track, going down the opening straight. Either A, he doesn't want to catch them, or B, he's thinking about engine temperature.
Yeah, it's a little bit fascinating actually to see him running down that side of the road. And maybe there is something in terms of one side is quicker than the other. Who knows? I know sometimes they do tend to favour one side over the other and down some of the straights in real life, but that's got me puzzled as well.
Oh, no. Just like that, there goes John Pat Kelly. A mistake trying to stay with Alex Ahoya, and it's at that dreaded Michelin chicane where it has caught so many drivers out here today. We'll catch it on the Motum Simulation replay here, trying to get that transfer spin. The car doesn't want to turn, and in fact wants to continue going. The brakes lock up. You can see there a nice advert, and that's what happens when Patsena Bridgestones go through a Michelin corner. They don't like it.
Yeah, they certainly don't like it, and not too ideal for John Pat Kelly, unfortunately. He was on for a very easy podium with the way he was going. He might be able to close up with this field that he saved back to where he was, but it's going to be a little bit of a hard task, and Danilo Sanfilippo not too far off the back of Ahoya now as well, so it's going to put even more pressure on Ahoya to try and have a bit of pace here instead of having that draft behind him, but nevertheless, we'll see what happens when Sanfilippo catches up.
And there's also the idea as well of 5th and 6th, because Edu Villa's not a million miles away now from John Pat Kelly, and will be very much trying to push in the bog standard, some would say, livery design for the Williams Toyota FW31, trying to make some good progress here up through the field. Their 6th position's doing well, and this is one of those sorts of races where even if you're not racing, I would say within a second, within a couple of seconds, you always have a chance around this place. Every position matters, and also you've got to look a little bit behind here, Edu Villa at the moment, because every place matters. The race leader, though, is down in on the lane. Ben Fuller pits then from the race lead, handing it over to Clayton McLeod.
That's actually quite interesting. I would have thought Ben Fuller would have gone as long as he possibly could on the fuel that he has, but he's clearly hasn't and has opted to pit a little bit early. He's just come out behind Danilo Sanfilippo and not too far ahead of Edu Villa, so he's put himself in some nice clean air, and he might be able to use a bit of draft as well if he's lucky enough.
I think it's a TQ strategy, because John Pat Kelly's done exactly the same thing, also down in on pit lanes we just saw. So Ben Fuller on an out lap here, trying to get going. Also now, Adrian Moreno, ZURITA down in on the lane. Adrian Moreno, as most people will know him by. And there is David Cudmore, the Canadian. Haven't seen too much of him today. He's having a pretty quiet run of things at the moment, and will be trying to gain place upon place upon place here today. That's EMILIO Fernandez coming in onto the lane from Club Hispano-America.
Yeah, Emilio's had reasonably quiet race. It's just been plugging away at the laps. Hasn't been really fighting with anyone too heavily over these last few laps, but just been doing exactly what he's been able to do, and has picked up a number of positions just purely based on being able to put in some nice clean laps as well.
And it's those clean laps which become so very vital. John Pat Kelly's out and away in 9th place, but will now get the draft down the Mulsanne here as he tries to look at Jan Stratinsky just in front, making the push forward. They will go and try and get as much as they can out of this long straight, looking to go on through. Club Mid-South is John Pat Kelly right now as he looks to try and hit the brakes into this first chicane, and you can see the difference in contrasting lines. Those tyres need to get brought up to temperature here for John Pat Kelly, and as such, there isn't as much turn in the vehicle, say, to Jan Stratinsky, who has heated up those tyres a lot more.
Yes, certainly. The cold tyre effect is going to be playing a little bit of havoc around here today, with the fact that it's only a 27-degree track, and also the fact that there's no real corners to heat the tyres up either, so they're really not going to be being able to get up to temp all as quickly, but you'll be able to get some temp to them at least in the next lap or so to try and hunt down Jan Strutinsky, but still within draft range, so shouldn't have too many issues catching up.
No, not at all, as John Pat Kelly here going on to the brakes down at the roundabout right now for Mulsanne, and trying to push on forward once again. There's the golf course on the right, very heavily shrouded by trees as they now start to make the run back towards home, some would say right now. This is Danilo Sanfilippo, though, in what is 3rd position on the road right now, heading through the Porsche curves and 1.6 seconds behind Alex Ahoya in the Kronos Sim Racing car. This is a really key battle right now for Danilo. He needs to start chasing down. Will anybody be taking the bite right? No, they will not. No! Oh, my goodness me. Both Sanfilippos have caught exactly the same curb.
Yeah, they certainly have, except luckily Danilo is managing to keep the car straight, but he got the second one as well, which may have damaged that front end a little bit more, but it doesn't look like it has, so he might have just got away with that. But yeah, very lucky not to have that go even more pear-shaped than it did.
He has to be really careful that he's not going to get a 2x instant point for heavy contact here, the way he's gone up and down. I know it can happen at Zolder, but look at this. He just catches the inside, up, bang, and then he's straight up, bang again as he goes on through. He's done so well to keep that off of any grass or gravel or anything like that. But look at how much time it's cost him. He's now back 3.5 seconds off of Alex Ahoy, and I wouldn't be surprised if there's some form of damage on the vehicle.
Yeah, certainly. May have damaged the floor, and who knows if he has or not. And if he has, he's not going to be having that not going to be having a good time at all. But yeah, he did a very good job to actually slow it down enough to not actually end up in the grass. So very good heads up driving by Danilo, but it's definitely a scary moment when your front end goes up in the air and you're suddenly turning the wheel going, oh, we're not going around the corner.
Edu Villa, Ben Goyette and David Cudmore have all come down in and made their stops. They are back out and away again and racing forward then onto lap 9 of this event. 7 laps to go and a mistake, and Danilo Sanfilippo there at the Michelin chicane, just struggling with the car a little bit, and that's Ben Fuller who's gone by. So that tells you all you need to know. Danilo Sanfilippo, another mistake there, this time at the Michelin chicane, and really when it rains here in France it pours.
Yeah, it certainly does, and it's one of those things about this track is you make a mistake somewhere and you can get to your head a little bit because you're constantly trying to push to keep that draft, but nevertheless it's unfortunately gone a little bit pear-shaped for Danilo, and he's not having that good of a lap so far.
No, absolutely not. The approach to the lap wasn't brilliant, and now here's this. John Pat Kelly on the back still of Jan Stratinsky, half a second. Stratinsky yet to come down in and make his stop. John Pat Kelly has, of course, and This is going on right now, about 50 seconds down the road from the likes of Danilo Sanfilippo and Ben Fuller and all of the likes right now. I should say 45 seconds on the brakes into the Mulsanne corner and starting to make that run again. There wide goes Jan Stratinsky, and that's a give me, I think you'd say, for that one. And a very nice, comfortable overtake here for John Pat Kelly.
Yeah, very easy move for Kelly to get on through, and it's not really going to be challenged too heavily by Stratinsky either by the looks of it. So on his way will John Pat Kelly be, but MACLEOD and EGUIA coming down onto the lane as Danilo also comes down.
Yep, they're all pitting. Ben Fuller is going to reclaim the race lead. You'll see him go by in just a moment. There he goes, and that's the race lead for Ben Fuller, and they will never see him again in terms of this race, Cam.
Yeah, they certainly won't, as he's going to have quite the substantial lead by the time CLAYTON, MACLEOD, or whoever comes out in second place out of the lane.
Well, it's such a difficult pit entry as well. That's one thing that's worth keeping in mind here, Cam. It's so easy, if you just slightly mess it up, to be held in the pits for an unsafe pit entry.
Yeah, certainly. It's one of those things, is it's very committed, but very, very easy to make a mistake and end up putting yourself in a position where you're not going to be having a good time sitting in pit lane for about 40-odd seconds for an unsafe entry. But nevertheless, it looks like all three drivers, McLaren, EGUIA, and SANFILIPPO, all doing it very, very safely, and they've all come out in pretty much the same order.
Yep, they've done very well as they've made their stops. So they are exactly how they were. EGUIA there in third. Danilo Sanfilippo's managed to maintain fourth position despite the dramas. But look at that gap. It's not a million miles away from John Pat Kelly. It's 3 seconds.
Yeah, it's not too big of a gap and probably achievable, but we'll have to wait and see what happens. And actually, a bit of a quicker pit stop as well for Danilo compared to John Pat Kelly, but nevertheless, he's going to give it a red hot go as John Pat Kelly to try and close down that gap.
Out and away has also gone Jan Stratinsky, but look at the gap that he's got to deal with for 10th and 11th position right now. It's only about 0.7 of a second between himself and John Owens from the Carolinas. So now the Canadian will want that top 10 back again. Everybody inside of this field has pitted as of lap 10. So now it's all about a 6-lap sprint to get yourself home.
Yeah, there's going to be no funny business in pit lane anymore. It's literally get your head down, put your eyes forward, and push on as hard as you possibly can without making a mistake at this point for everybody.
Well, what can Jan Stratinsky do? What can Jan Stratinsky do at this stage? The gap has opened up to 1.4 seconds. Most of that is down to that cold tyre factor. You can see struggling a little bit, though, through the exit there goes John Owens. It looked like he was slightly too deep, and look at how that gap will just be clawed in. The draft will come back in again, and it's all down to 0.7 of a second once more, just like that.
Yes, certainly, and that's all it takes. It just takes one small mistake or a really, really good run out of a corner, and you're going to be right on the back of the driver ahead, as we've just seen with Jan Stratinsky. So he's going to be right there to utilise the draft that John Owens is putting out, and he shouldn't have too many issues getting a pass done in the next laps or so.
And talking about drivers who'll be looking to get passes done in the next few laps or so, John Pat Kelly has almost halved the gap down. It's 1.7 now between himself and Danilo Sanfilippo, and suddenly the Italian's in a race.
Yes, certainly it is starting to possibly become a bit apparent that Danilo has a bit of damage on that car, possibly based on how quickly John Pat Kelly's actually catching him. So I wouldn't be surprised if there is a little bit of floor damage and it is hampering his straight line speed, but nevertheless, he's not doing too bad of a job at the moment, doing the best that he can.
Absolutely not. And well, you can see how Danilo Sanfilippo now has to be extra wary, and it was this corner here that caught him out a couple of laps ago. He's fine through it this time. You take this section with a lot of respect through this bit, through the final corner, and on to start another lap. Their 11th lap of this race they go on to right now, and they find themselves 45 seconds off of the race lead at the moment. This is David Cudmore, though, in 9th position. And look at this, John Owens and Jan Straczynski both chasing this one down. So what is definitely worth saying in this stage of the event is that there is a lot of time to be had. And well, if you're going to run wide like that, Mr. Cudmore, you might be running yourself into a bit more troubles. The Canadian here is going to potentially have a slowdown penalty from that, but it looks like it's okay.
Yeah, it was very marginal. I'd probably say he did get one. It looks like he has got one. So John Owens now all over the back of Cudmore, and that's going to allow Straczynski to catch up at some stage. And Owens looks to try and make a move, but not quite going to be able to get it done. Oh, and Cudmore runs wide.
Oh no, another slowdown then, so the Fiber Optic Racing Team car needs a better connection, it seems, around this place, because he is dropping slowdown penalties left, right and centre, Cam.
Yes, certainly not being too ideal for Cudmore, and it's one of those things you just get constantly slowdowns after slowdown, and it's one of those frustrating things about this track is Cudmore lets Owens on through to get rid of the slowdown that he's got, and now Straczynski's right on the back of this.
He said it wasn't much of a slowdown penalty. It was only half a second, said David Cudmore. So he said, go on through, I'll serve it, and then I'll go and attack you for the second part of this section. Straczynski's going to be on the back now, but John Owens here is fighting for 9th position and takes that wide line through the first part, trying to attack the second and the third parts here as they start to make that push on the Mulsanne. Cudmore's down on the inside. He's looking to try and get himself a way through, and there's where the pace comes back again.
Yeah, and Straczynski looming in the background as well, possibly looking to catch up using the draft.
Oh, Goyette's out.
Is going to be trying to make
Moreno's out.
There's mistakes going on everywhere.
There is. So we've got one car out, one car spun, and we've got a big battle going on for the top 10. So this is what happened to Ben Goyette then, as he went through the Michelin chicane. So he's all good for now, but does he just get it wrong on the exit here? Oh, yes, he does. Bang, hard into the wall. And those Armco barriers, they don't do much. Adrian Moreno just loops it on entry and has to do effectively a lap one in terms of this one to get the car back rotated again. It's the second time he's gone for a 360 at that corner. He really loves roundabouts. But at the moment, John Owens, they're now in 9th position here as they all fight for the top 10. Here comes Straczynski now looking, he'll have double draft here on the run to Indianapolis. And Cudmore, well, he's going to see the world flash by before his eyes, because that's one car that's going to find its way through then on the inside, and it's not going to be a second as Straczynski wisely backs out.
Oh, and Owens runs slightly deep as well, and Cudmore's going to look to go around the outside, but thinks better of it and just will sit in on behind. But yeah, that could have easily been 3 wide there on the way into Indy.
It could have very easily have been 3 wide, but ultimately they all do okay. I've just seen Emilio Fernandez as well go off the circuit, and that's allowed Adam Webb the chance to go through. In fact, they both very nearly spun it at the same time.
Yeah, they certainly did nearly spin it at the same time, as that is very wide and a bit deep on the brake pedal, but nevertheless they've pulled it up and not managed to make the barrier at least.
I think that's the biggest message that you can see for do not follow your opponent's braking pattern.
It certainly is, especially when they end up in the gravel trap and having to recover, but at least we've managed to pull it up a little bit quicker and get a position out of it.
So they're still holding on. They're trying everything they can. That's David Cudmore in 9th position right now, trying everything possible to keep the car in anywhere near close to a battle. John Owens has done enough so far to get away, and that's a little too deep from Cudmore. He's done it for the second lap in a row.
I think someone needs to tell Cudmore that I think you need to brake a little bit earlier for that corner there if you don't want to keep going off.
Outbrake yourself once, shame on you. Outbrake yourself twice, shame on me, as he goes on through and loses out some time. Meanwhile, the front of the field is really quite quiet at the moment. It's a 29-second margin for Ben Fuller at the moment over Clayton McLeod in second place. And this is the Ben Fuller race that we've all come to know and expect over the last 2 months. He takes the lead and nobody sees him again.
Yeah, certainly. May as well be on his way back to England at the moment, because there's no hope of seeing him by the time everybody else gets on the boat. So he's definitely in a world of his own, but at least he hasn't lapped the field yet, so we're at least part of the way.
He's at least parted away. Indeed, he'll be at Calais before the time that anybody reaches the checkered flag here today behind him. That's how far ahead Ben Fuller is at the moment. Meanwhile, that gap between Danilo Sanfilippo and John Pat Kelly has stayed very, very stagnant at around 2 seconds out on track. I wonder here if Danilo's found his match in terms of getting a lap time he wants. There's 3 laps to go when they cross the line. And one of the things here at Le Mans, Cam, is just being able to tick off laps. It doesn't matter how good you drive. It doesn't matter how raggedy Ann you get around certain corners. So long as you're on the road, you're in with a fighting chance.
Yeah, absolutely. And just being able to keep it out of the wars and minimize mistakes is really paying dividends for the likes of John Pat Kelly, who's just been putting in some nice laps over the past few to get some, well, close that gap down as best as he possibly can. I do believe Danilo has some minor floor damage, I think, based on his top speed in the last few laps, but nevertheless, it's not quite substantial enough to be hurting him all that much. He's just doing enough to counter it.
Yep, doing enough, doing what he needs to at this stage to keep the gap close. There has been a change for position, of course, between Cudmore and Strutinsky losing that place, but Cudmore's going to be trying very hard to get that position back then down near the bottom of the field right now in what is 10th position. We've got ourselves just 13 runners here in this race, and I think Ben Goyette is classified now as a non-finisher, so now down to just 12 runners remaining here in this one. So Ben Goyette out through the incident that we saw coming out of the Michelin chicane. Dylan Freckleton looking more like a Formula 4 than a Formula 1 car. Marco Sanfilippo after his escapades over the anti-cut curbs. Ken Nielsen, who felt really, really aggrieved by what happened earlier on to him, and Tamas Shane retiring after the opening lap of the event. Those are the retirements so far here in this one, and I would say this is about par for the course in terms of how deadly and difficult this track can be.
Yes, certainly, especially in these cars where it's a complete opposite of what you'd expect. Is that's Jan Strutinsky very, very close.
That's Jan Strutinsky doing a David Cudmore right in front of David Cudmore. Let's get a Motum simulation replay of this one then. So everybody's forgotten you've got a break here for this section. So Strutinsky hits the brakes and he's gone straight on, and then straight. Oh, he's gone over the anti-cut curbs. He's very lucky. He's not careened straight on into David Cudmore there.
Yeah, well, I thought he would have tried to miss the anti-cut curbs, but clearly decided to try and minimize the slowdown. I think, had to end up doing a little bit of skipping over the curbs, but nevertheless, he looks like he's got away with it all right for the time being. But John Pat Kelly's really close that gap down now to Danilo Sanfilippo by the looks of it.
Down to 1.5 seconds, and he'll be trying desperately to get within a draft range. He doesn't have long. If there is ever a time to start attacking, it's got to be now, because he's got to take something like 5.5 tenths of a second out every single lap plus. And now you can see where that draft comes in. The gap down to 1.2 as he hits the brakes into Indy and starts to push now towards the Arnage corner. It seems like corners are the domain of choice for Danilo Sanfilippo, but John Pat Kelly, well, without the damage, he does straights quite nicely. And fortunately for John Pat Kelly, there's a lot of those.
There certainly is quite a few of those, but Danilo Sanfilippo 336 on the way into Indy, whereas John Pat Kelly was doing over 340. So clearly is a little bit of floor damage to Sanfilippo's Williams FW31, but nevertheless, he's doing everything right at the moment, at least to keep John Pat Kelly behind.
Well, he's trying everything at the moment, but this gap is going to close and close, and it might just be a last lap scrap that we see here for 4th and 5th place in this one, going through the final chicanes and on to start the 14th of 15 laps then goes Danilo Sanfilippo. The gap is 1.3 seconds when they cross the line, so work to be done. Right now for Danilo, he's seen that gap eroded by 6 tenths that last time by, and I think John Pat Kelly knows what he wants to do. He wants to get within a draft range and start attacking, but that opening sector, that gap's back out to 1.6 again. This is where Danilo Sanfilippo's skill is really, truly masterminded.
Yeah, certainly. He's using the ability he's got through the corners to pull that gap out just ever so slightly to the point where John Pat Kelly just can't quite do enough to get that gap back down, although there's still plenty of straight lines to go to till the end of this race, so might just be able to do enough, will John Pat Kelly, but who knows?
Who knows indeed. These two going at it for 4th and 5th position. Oh, how John Pat Kelly would absolutely love picking up big points in 4th position with the retirements that there have been here today, and with the nature of this being a very, very small gridded field with the split that came for this race today. This is going to be huge points that are going to be changed for position to position. Normally you expect to see maybe about 200 odd points given for a championship effort. This may be down at about 170 points here in terms of this strength of field, but the key here is that there will be about 10 points for every position you make, and so a position made is not 10 points, it's actually a 20-point swing.
Yes, certainly. So gaining 1 position compared to where you're at the moment, and I've just seen that Danilo Sanfilippo has made a mistake at Mulsanne Corner.
That's called pressure, and that was well done by John Pat Kelly. He was always knocking on the door as we catch this on the Motum Simulation replay. Danilo Sanfilippo outbrakes himself. He took the cone, so you can tell he's committed. He took a cone, but there you can see he locks the fronts up. He goes over the roundabout, and effectively he missed his turn in, so he had to go around it again.
Yes, certainly. That is exactly what John Pat Kelly needed to get on by, well, with ease anyway, and that's P4 now for the Canadian.
Well, it's worked really well for him right now. He's from Club Mid-South, though, at the moment, so he's doing well. Last lap, though, has started for this drive. We haven't seen too much of him here today. He's called Ben Fuller 3 here on iRacing. The 3 stands for he's the 3rd Ben Fuller that's had that ability, or he's used 2 accounts previously, known as Ben Fuller and Ben Fuller 2. But it doesn't matter what his name is right now, he is leading, and he is leading by a long walk. You can look into the distance and you can see absolutely nobody there at the moment. I'm not sure how much draw distance you can put here in iRacing to make sure you can see that car all the way off in the distance. Ben Fuller is rocketing forward at the moment to the tune of 34 seconds. And Cam, you really cannot understate how good Ben Fuller's drive has been here today. He got to the front, and then he just does what he does best. He drives and drives and drives, and John Owens, I've just seen drop position.
Yeah, certainly. He's done very, very well for himself, and Owens has actually had a moment somewhere with heavy damage, and it looks like it's at Arnage.
Oh, no, not like that. Try and put the power down on the exit. That's how to throw away a top 10 finish. John Owens goes through Indianapolis without too many worries. Now, you're going to watch this here through arguably one of the most difficult, if not the most difficult corner on the circuit. It's slow, it's off camber, and he catches the AstroTurf on the outside and has no grip to try and compensate there at a point where it's road wide.
Yes, certainly. That is not ideal at all for John Owens, and he was doing so well up to that point as well, on for a top 10, and unfortunately he's just done not what he needs to do, and unfortunately made a mistake, and he just caught the AstroTurf as well, and that's all that it took for him to end up in the barrier.
It took all of that. There is the place where the accident happened. No such worries for Ben Fuller, who has himself just the Porsche curves remaining here in this race, and he will go through them without too many worries at all. Watch as he masterfully takes the first right-hander, which is the real confidence tester. Then you've got the left, so understated how aggressive you need to be through that section. The next right follows up for the 3rd, and then the final right means you exit. The final left means you exit the Porsche curves, and now the final couple of chicanes remain. For Ben Fuller, this is exactly what he wanted. What a place to crown a championship. There is no way anybody's going to catch him right now, because Ben Fuller is walking away. Get him on a boat to Calais. He wins at Le Mans.
Just another stunning drive by Ben Fuller, and I think it's fair to say it's a championship wrapped up as well. So the man has done exactly what he has needed to do all season long, and has pretty much come away with this with a very easy and another solid victory.
There's Clayton MacLeod. A lot of controversy last week in terms of how he had to defend against one Mr. Ben Fuller, who was a lap ahead of him effectively on the road. He knows that he was beaten here today, but will still take big points in second place and will be very happy with the fact that he has finished this one without any dramas at all. And there is Alex Ahoya, second last time out at Sonoma, but it will be third position, started in fourth, and the Kronos car on the podium will be a very, very happy moment for him. Alex Ahoya will cross the line and will take the final spot on the podium and will be very happy to do so, as you can see with the weaving over the line. There is John Pat Kelly for fourth position, started in 8th place here today, and really someone who has driver of the day candidate plastered all over him in lights.
Yeah, certainly is going to have it plastered all over him, but nevertheless, Eddie Villa comes across the line to take a very comfortable and a very nice P6, considering how his race has been. But nevertheless, I think Strutinsky's just going to do enough here to hold off David CUOMORE as well for P8.
Wiggle would have said otherwise, but the gap is 1 second. It's coming down a little bit, but it's too little too late, you'd say, at this point, unless that fuel gauge has hit empty at this point onwards and you can't get anything left going through. Final couple of corners then for Jan Strutinsky. He should... Oh, look how much. That's being closed down by David CUOMORE. It's down to 3/10 of a second. Well, that was cautious from Jan Strutinsky, but it's enough. David CUOMORE could not get close enough there to take away the 8th position overall. The final couple of finishers coming towards the line. Adam Webb is going to be the penultimate finisher in this race, with Emilio Fernandez the last finisher overall. They will be classified on the leading lap, but as we know, it's a very long lap here at Le Mans, and you get a lot of time to get over the line and sort everything out. So there is Adam Webb crossing the line of 3:17 to finish in terms of his last lap, as there is Emilio Fernandez Garrido making the progress. Emilio Fernandez over the line and completing all the finishes in this field. Confirmation then of results. They are up for you on your screen right now. Ben Fuller has absolutely walked away with another one. It took him 46 minutes and 29 seconds to absolutely dominate here today. He wins by 37 seconds over Clayton MacLeod, with Alex Ahoya coming home in third place. John Pat Kelly gets fourth, with Danilo Sanfilippo in fifth, and Edu Villa, a very quiet but respectable drive, in sixth place. 2 spins for Adrian Moreno today, one on lap one a little bit closer towards the end, but it doesn't matter how you get over the line. It's 7th position come the end of the day, with Jan Strutinsky and David CUOMORE 8th and 9th, and Adam Webb in the Grip TV car rounding out the top 10.
And you have Emilio Fernandez on the final car on the lead-up, and the final finisher is, well, before we get back to our retirees, John Owens, Ben Guillet, Dylan Freckleton, Marcus SANFILIPPO, Kent Nielsen, and Tamp Shane.
And those are the 17 that went through. A lot of retirements here today, almost a third of the field running themselves into troubles. It is one of the shortest races, if not the shortest race of the day. So a very, very nice run that we have seen going on today, but it is pretty much championship confirmed for Ben Fuller in the iRacing Grand Prix Series, and his coronation ceremony will be taking place in the United Kingdom. We are heading to Snetterton in 1 week's time to see some amazing sim racing action, but this isn't the only time on a Saturday that you're going to be seeing action on a fantastic race at Le Mans, because Max Bant's 11's coming here in 1 week's time as well. So you want to try and tune in for that. That will be on the Saturday morning for those in the United Kingdom. It'll be Saturday evening for those watching in Australia. And of course, on Sunday morning, there will be that Grand Prix Series action, as there always is. And on top of that, the week after that, so in 2 weeks' time, we have ourselves the Great Sim Race, the Great Australian Sim Race at the home of Australian Sim Racing that holds the fastest corner in Australian Sim Racing, Mount Panorama Bathurst, Scott's Bathurst 1000. That one is sure to be a treat. But a massive thanks has to go to Motum Simulations, who help get this one done for us here today. Some wonderful work they do with the replays here. But of course, they have to be masterminded by Jay Kennedy, who has had about 90 minutes of sleep before getting himself up and ready for this broadcast. He has done a fantastic job to bring you pictures here today. From Cam Dance on my left-hand side, my name's been Jake Sperry, and Ben Fuller has himself exactly what he wants. He's got the crown. He has won race upon race upon race. He has entered a different plane of driving compared to all of his nearest competitors, and he just gets it. It's so skilled, so talented, and I ask anybody in the iRacing sphere, past, present, or future, come challenge Ben Fuller if you think you're hard enough. We'll see you in 1 week's time for the culmination of this championship at the wonderful Snetterton race circuit.
This is fantastic. This is GT racing right now. He's got traction. He's got rhythm. Both of them. Maloney.
Oh, he's taken Anderson. Anderson's up to
Oh my God. Big crash. Oh my goodness. Half the field's going to get rolled.
Second very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, there we go. Oh no, that's massive. This is it. This is over. I can't believe this. Oh my God.
God, what?